Birds. We've got birds upon birds upon birds on the table. We have 4 birds game. This is part of the birds series from Rose Gauntlet on backer kit. We're going to give you kind of a 30,000 feet, no pun intended. I hope there's no birds up at 30,000 feet. We're going to give you a nice overview of the 4 games, not going into too much detail, but going to tell you about each one of these. These are all 4 small box games that do some different things. There's some card games that feel like rummy. There's some trick taking going on. And then there's also some dexterity stuff.
Yes, indeed.
The first one we want to talk about, we have them all 4 displayed out here. We've got Pebbles, Flock, Rook Requiem, that's a mouthful, and Birds on Birds. Can you guess which one is the dexterity game?
I could never guess.
We just played them all, so she knew. But we're going to start with Pebbles. Pebbles is an interesting game. It does have some trick taking. You are going to be playing a card, someone's going to lead, and you're going to win a trick potentially. But that really is just to get one form of the points that you can get in the game. Otherwise, you're going to actually be using an area control mechanism out on all these tiles by placing some of your penguins out there, manipulating the board by moving some penguins, putting some gems out on the different tiles to make them worth different values.
They're pebbles. We're trying to
pebbles,
be
not
in control
gems.
of all
I'm
the
sorry,
pebbles. So it's a game of courtship, right? And you know how penguins use their pebbles
yes,
to try to
true.
court each other?
That's true.
That's basically what we're doing. We're putting all our penguins out there, and we're trying to control the spaces that have the most pebbles or control a whole territory. And like you said, we can do it by, we're playing cards. We're not only trick taking, but we're also doing the action on the card.
Yeah.
Or deploying one of our penguins to the space of the card number we did. So there's multiple reasons why we're choosing a card. And we can do things like that we can push other people out. We can put pebbles on there. We can scurry our own.
Yep.
Yes. Or we can do one of our own little rituals where if there's already 2 penguins somewhere, we can add another penguin or add another pebble.
Wonder what that ritual is. Anyway, you can do all those things. Then you can also just, if you don't want to do the action on the card, you can actually use the number on the card to just simply put penguin on that numbered tile, because all those tiles are going to reflect the numbers on the cards that you're playing with.
And you don't have to worry if you got cards that you didn't like, because you can also always go fishing.
Yes.
So you can take one of the face-up cards from the 4 that are shown and change one of your cards out with it. And then you'll get a fish. And a fish gives you a little bit of flexibility so you can do a little more movement later.
Yeah, that is kind of cool being able to swap them. I think people will look at that display and go, well, there's a high one. I want to take some tricks. And there are going to be times where you don't necessarily want to take the trick. There are some times where the power that you're going to use might be beneficial if you're the last one to take it, if you're manipulating the board for the area control. But yes, that is Pebbles. That is the first in the bird series. The next one we're going to talk about is Flock. This is their take on Rummy, but it's got some twists. I'm actually going to get a couple components out here. Everyone has one of these player boards here, and above it you're going to have the sky. Below it you're going to have your island. The sky is where you're going to be playing your melds. If you've ever played Rummy, any 3 cards of the same number or more, you can play out here. Down here, you can play your runs, and this is going to be consecutive cards, all of the same color. But there are some interesting twists in this game, because when on your turn, you're going to draw a card from the deck, and there's also going to be the horizon, which is some revealed cards from the deck that are treated effectively as everyone's hand. You have access to them on your turn. So when you take your turn, you're going to take 2 actions. You can take 2 of the same action or whatever you want. But one action would be to play a meld out here into the sky, play a run down here, or
you can play something in the flock, and you're going to actually migrate other birds from other places into yours. So for example, if I did a flock action and put out 3 2s, David might see that and in his turn go, ooh, I have a 2 in my hand.
And I can just play the 1 2 by itself. It's not part of the other action. It is actually the migrate action. And then I can actually take one of her 2s. And if you're playing with more players, all of them have to give me that. So the cards in your sky are kind of at risk. They can be taken.
Moving around.
The cards that you've played in runs below your board are not. They are sort of locked in. No one can touch them. The interesting thing about when you're playing these, you can play cards from your hand into the sky, plus any cards that are in that display. So you might see a couple of the same number out there, and you have a couple of those same numbers, so you play all 4 as a meld out there. But when you're playing your runs down here, you can actually play cards from the horizon in that display, your hand, or cards from your flocks. So you can actually take cards out of there and basically mess with your own melds,
Yes.
but in the process, you're locking them in below your player board.
And like Rummy, we're going to keep going until somebody at the end of their turn doesn't have any cards. Everyone else will get one more turn. And then you're going to get points for basically everything in your flock, everything in your everything underneath your island. And you can also on your turn, if you don't want to do one of those things, if you want to do nothing, you're like, I don't want to get rid of any of these cards. You can get some feathers. And feathers are the flexibility in this game that are going to allow you to either take a third action
Yeah,
on
you
a
can
turn,
take a third action,
or you can draw a card.
draw a card.
Or you can place it on a specific card and use that to change the suit.
Yeah,
that
so you
makes
can-
it even easier to get those runs.
Yeah, you can build the runs by changing the suit when you do that if you have a feather. So that is their take on Rummy. It is very interesting because it's kind of, I don't know, it feels a little bit, I'm not well versed in Rummy and all the different versions, so I don't know if there's any versions that do these things, but the whole idea of like siphoning cards off other people's melds is pretty interesting.
That's pretty interesting, but I think it's also to the fact that like the top part is where it's all the same number and the bottom is the run.
Yeah.
So they're kind of very, like some is more protected than the other.
True. We've got two more. The next one is Rook Requiem. This one is actually near to my heart. I grew up in a family who played a lot of Rook. This is Rook, if you're not familiar with it, it is a very straightforward trick-taking game. This is a twist on it. And of all of these four games, this is probably the darkest in tone.
Yes, for sure.
I don't want to open the box, but I do have some cards here to give you an idea of what's going on here. This is trick-taking, pretty much 101 as it relates to how you're playing cards and gathering tricks. Someone's going to lead a card. You can follow suit. In fact, you have to if you can. You can trump, those sorts of things. They're taking the bidding out of this. When we played Rook, there was bidding. And you dictate what the trump suit is going to be by just flipping over the top card of the nest. The nest is what you'd usually call the kitty. This is the extra hand that's kind of out of play. But in this game, instead of someone being able to get the kitty, it's going to be something that you actually go after throughout the game with these ghosts. There are ghosts in the game. You're going to flip over the top ghost card. And for that trick, there's going to be some special rules. This one, for instance, says for this trick, only no suit is considered trump. So there's no trump this trick. And some of these are going to have point values on them. And the normal cards, the 5s, the 10s, the 14s, and then the rook cards, everyone's going to get a rook card dealt to them at the beginning of the game, which is another big difference. In normal Rook, there's just one rook card. It is like the end-all be-all card. In this one, there are rook cards, and there are 4 different types that do different things, but they're all worth 20 points when you take them in a trick.
Yeah.
But some of them let you fluctuate what it is. So you might play one, and it's double the value of the last card played.
it, yeah.
Or it's equal to all the cards played before it, that sort of thing.
Or a plus or minus one, you think, -1, why would I want that for if I'm trying to win a trick?
Well,
But some of these ghosts have things like the lowest card actually wins this suit.
So this takes some things that I think we've seen in some other trick-taking games over the years and adds it to Rook. I do love the idea of the ghosts basically every single trick you take. And I think you're going to play, 3 rounds with 12 tricks each. And each trick is going to get another ghost. So you're going to have a whole new rule that kind of turns the games on its ear.
And I think it's interesting too because sometimes you'll want to get the ghost. I mean, they're always points, but some of those ghosts are going to be less points for you. Like one of them is, it's like 50 points if it's your only ghost. But if you already have a bunch of them, you're like, well, I'm not really trying to go for that. Maybe I'll throw off for this trick.
Right. It takes what was a very standard trick-taking game in Rook and really cranks it up. Because like, for instance, like Emily was just saying, this one says at the end of the round, gain 40 points if you won 2 tricks or less.
Yeah.
That is a very specific objective.
Specific, yes.
You might look at that and go, okay. I mean, I think most people probably take this and then just cross their fingers.
Yes.
But that is their take on Rook. It is a straightforward trick-taking game with a lot of twists added to this one with the ghosts and the different rooks. The last one is called Birds on Birds. And you know what? Get the box out of here. We're just going to play this thing and show you a little bit. This one is a dexterity game. I'm going to set it up for you really quick. And you won't be able to see it too well, but we're going to be taking these birds and stacking them on this little wobbly tree here. You can win this game in one of 2 ways. If you have no birds in front of you, you win the game. Or if you reach 20 points, you'll win the game. What do you do on your turn? Emily, take it away.
Well, you're going to take one hand and take one of your birds. You can kind of feel around on the tree where you want to go, but you have to leave him somewhere. And then once he's there, you have to say a 7-word phrase. This is my 7-word phrase. I don't know if that was.
You could
7
say
words.
the silly little squirrel
Yeah.
chased the birds away. Or
That's
something
enough
like
time
that.
to say, like, okay, good. In that time, nothing has fallen. If
Yes.
anything fell, I would have to take those pieces. Since nothing did fall, I'm going to do the shortest line from the lowest part down and see how many different bird pieces it went through. Obviously, mine only went through 1.
So she would get 1 point. Now it would be my turn to go, and I'm going to place this one, hopefully. Nope.
No.
Oh, I've
you're
already
already touching
broken the
it.
rule. So there are a few rules. 1, just 1 hand. 2, I can manipulate things around however I want, but once I touch my piece to a piece out here, that's the piece
You're
I'm having to
committed.
place.
That's the bird.
So I don't think he's going to fit there without sliding off. So I'm actually just going to, oh, you know what? Oh, but then the lowest.
Get crazy. Get crazy.
I could get crazy. Boom. Like that. And now we go from the lowest point after my 7-word phrase or so. And it goes him and then this bird. So I would get
2 points.
2 points. And then we just keep going. Birds are going to fall.
Birds will fall.
Birds will fall.
Birds
and I got
will
to
fall.
tell you,
Birds will fly.
there's a lot of different shapes, weights, and sizes to these birds.
There's even this tiny little egg that you can kind of fit into little crevices. But
I
it's
don't
also
know that
very easy.
I'd suggest the egg right now.
No.
I'm pretty sure this one's done.
Were you saying eagle? Eagle next is what?
Oh, maybe. But anyway, you're going to play that until, like we said, someone's been able to get rid of all their birds. They're good. Or someone reaches 20 points. Those are going to be the winner. That is the last of the 4 games in the bird series. If you have any questions about any of these, I know we kind of brushed through a lot of the rules. Get down in the comments and ask us whatever you want. We'll try to answer whatever you ask. Until next time, though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.